This changes everything for the New York Rangers as Chris Drury goes out to trade captain Jacob Trouba to the Anaheim Ducks, and while also signing Igor Shesterkin to a historic deal. We're going to break all this down and more later on this episode. Before we get into that, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone watching this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and we'll keep you up to date on everything to do around the NHL. But with that, dears, let's just hop into the wild day that the Rangers have been having. And the first thing on that list is Trouba traded to the Anaheim Ducks for Euro Vakanainen and a 4th round pick. Now, going into this, we know there's so much speculation flying around the league, especially today, about Jacob Trouba and his time with the New York Rangers. We had General Manager Chris Drury speak out. You can pause, you can read through this, thanking Trouba for his time, the seasons with the Rangers, and for being a leader and a captain of this team. It continues on to teammate Zibanejad speaking on Trouba as well. That's a decision between the team and him. From what I'm understanding, as a player, as a teammate, as a friend, and a human being, we love him to death. Now, just looking at this, Darius, what was your initial reactions to Trouba going to the Ducks?
I was pretty shocked that it happened in season, I have to be honest, because if you're a New York Rangers fan or if you're, maybe not new to the whole Jacob Trouba saga, the way that his contract is set up kind of allowed the Rangers to move off of him in the last 2 years of his deal because his wife's residency in New York was up, and obviously he wanted to make it a little bit easier for the Rangers to move him if need be. The thing is, it got extended an extra year, and I talked about this on Rangers Digest actually during the summer that it got extended a year, and the Rangers wanted to move off of him in the summer. He got wind of this the day before the draft, or on the draft floor actually, and he actually added Detroit where they were going to trade him to his no trade clause, his new modified no trade clause. So coming into this season, I think that, a lot of that drama kind of spilled over to the season. The Rangers have really been struggling, even though they've been, they collected quite a bit of wins. In those wins, it's been Igor Shesterkin that's won those games, or Jonathan Quick, and we'll get to Igor Shesterkin in a second. But on the New York Rangers front and the team front, they haven't been playing well, and he has not been living up to his $8 million contract. And at the end of the day, they tried to trade him last summer. So I am surprised that they got it done in season. But the fact that, Chris Drury was able to move off of this, he stayed true to his word of last week, obviously mentioning that there was a shakeup coming and players were available for trade. And the fact that the Ducks actually, ate all of the salary, there was no salary retention. It is pretty impressive what Chris Drury was able to do here. And I think that the Rangers are not done by any stretch.
Because, I mean, looking at this trade, there's very often, not very often, sorry, that you see a team trade an $8 million contract, not only this early in the season, but also a captain being this early moved in the season. And talking about the cap space, that was the biggest thing around the Rangers, was freeing up this cap space. The projected cap right now is 5.9, current cap 8.5, but when you look at the trade deadline for the New York Rangers, they have just over $27 million to spend. Darius, looking at this, do you think they're going to use this going into free agency, or do you think they're kind of going to sit on their hands a bit and see where this team goes first?
Yes, I do think that they're going to use this cap space. I don't think it's going to be, in next offseason. I don't think they're going to wait to use this cap space in the offseason. I think that Chris Drury has big plans to continue to retool this team on the fly this season. I don't think they're done by any stretch. The fact that he made two major moves in one day after saying last week that a major shakeup was coming tells me that more moves are coming. So I think that's exciting if you're a Rangers fan, because the lineup has been getting very stale and it's kind of run its course, and you can't fire the coach at this point. Peter Laviolette, in my eyes, is a very, very good coach. He's won a Stanley Cup, and this core group of players has gone through three coaches already. So you can't fire another coach to appease these players. You have to, make it work and obviously retool on the fly. And getting rid of Jacob Trouba underratedly as well won't hurt them as much as people believe, because Victor Mancini has been a revelation so far this year. He's been really good. He's a 5th round pick from just 2 years ago, and he made the NHL at a training camp this year, and he's been, called up and down here and there to make the cap work, but he's been really, really good. So he can kind of fill that role. Braden Schneider as well. He's been fantastic. So they won't miss him, but I think they're going to continue to retool. There's been rumors about Brady Tkachuk, for example, out of Ottawa. Those are just rumors at this point. But there's also some reports about Ryan Lindgren being moved off of as well. That would free up way more salary cap space. They can go out and get a really big fish in season, retool on the fly, and stay competitive. Because at the end of the day, this is a really good team still without Jacob Trouba on paper. They just have to figure it out.
Yeah, because the biggest thing is you're looking at this roster, and like you said, this is a core that you can't really break up. Having Panarin on this team, Trocheck, Zibanejad, Kreider. Kreider's name has been thrown around, but there's so many pieces, and you can't continue just to fire coaches to make things work, so a switch up did seem like the ideal. So many teams strapped with cap, with moving out a $8 million contract, not having to move a first, a prospect, anything in between to attach to this contract is underrated around the NHL. But Darius, we got to get into the breaking point of this video, which is Igor Shesterkin signs an 8 by $11.5 million deal with the New York Rangers, the largest contract by a goalie in NHL history. What was your initial reaction to this contract?
I'm very happy with this contract, honestly. We've talked about it a lot on Rangers Digest that Igor Shesterkin, I believe in my eyes, is the best goaltender in the National Hockey League, and therefore he should be paid as the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. And that's exactly what happened here with the largest goalie contract in NHL history. And there were some interesting things with this contract. Obviously, Shesterkin wanted $12.4 million. That's what the initial report was. The Rangers cannot afford to give this goaltender that. There were reports that the Rangers wanted it to be somewhere in the $10 million range. Then Shesterkin turned down an $11 million contract in preseason. And then it was reported that he wanted to be the highest paid New York Ranger because he believes he's the best player on the team. So that would mean he would have to make $11.7 million, which is, about $100,000 more than Artemi Panarin, but I guess they've settled on 11.5, which is still quite a bit of money for the goaltender. And the fact that they got him locked up for 8 years is fantastic. This is a really good deal because it's cost controlled at that number for the next 8 years. He's not relatively old by any stretch, right? Yes, he's 28, but you have him locked up till he's 36 now. And we know goalies can go quite a while, and he's only really getting into his prime, which is pretty scary. He's a really good goaltender. So I really like this contract for the team, for the goalie. I think the salary cap is only going to continue to go up now. And I think that this was something that had to be done. Sometimes it depends on the team, but I do believe that it's best to build your team from the goaltender out, and your team's swagger comes from the energy that your goaltender has in the net as well.
And I mean, looking at goaltenders that went farther in their prime at age 35, 36, Jonathan Quick is doing that right now with the Rangers. So you have Shesterkin locked up. As you said, the cap is going to continue to rise. Having him locked up for 8 years was probably a huge part on why he took the 12.5. You get longer term on a bigger contract. So he's going to make a lot of money, but like you said, this is worth it from both standpoints. He gets paid as the highest paid goalie in NHL history, and the Rangers lock up the best goaltender in the NHL in Shesterkin to continue with this window. They retool, but you still have the goaltender, which is one of, if not the most important position in hockey. But what's your guys' thoughts on this, Rangers fans? What's your thoughts on the return for Trouba? Are you happy you didn't have to move out contracts to move on from this deal? What's your thoughts on the Shesterkin deal? Who do you hope they trade for or trade next to change up this roster? Because it seems like more moves are coming. So keep your eye out for that. But if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go down, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care.